Hey, welcome to KaizenTalk, where we explore the transformative power of Kaizen in businesses worldwide. In each episode, we bring together experts and practitioners who are passionate about driving continuous improvement to achieve extraordinary results across industries. Hello, everyone. You're back to another episode of KaizenTalk podcast. I'm your host, Fery, the Managing Director for Kaizen Institute Singapore. I'm excited to explore some remarkable transformation stories with you today. Today, we are diving into a critical topic for operational excellence, overall equipment effectiveness. Maximizing OEE is the key to unlocking efficiencies, reducing downtime, and driving profitability in any industries. We'll be speaking with global experts to uncover best practices, challenges, and strategies for improving equipment effectiveness and achieving world-class performance. To help you unpack the fascinating topic, we have three outstanding guests joining us from around the globe today. First, let me introduce Luis Devesa, Director of Kaizen Institute for Western Europe. Luis has over 16 years of experience specializing in the Toyota production system, total flow management, and TPM. As a lean leader and a consultant, he has led continuous improvement initiatives and has driven lean transformation with breakthrough results across industries such as oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing. With international experience across multiple industries, Luis brings in-depth expertise in OEE, SMED, and lean methodologies. Hello, Luis. Good to have you
Hello.
here.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah,
Morning
thank
all.
you. Next, let me introduce you to the next speaker, Deborah Patterson, Director and Senior Consultant of Kaizen Institute for South Africa. She has over 13 years of experience in implementing operational excellence systems, specializing in process optimization, KPI management, and employee engagement. She has helped many organizations drive continuous improvement through Kaizen, 5S, OEE, and change management. She has worked in multiple industries such as manufacturing, mining, food and beverages, energy, and many others. Hi, Deborah. Great to see you here today.
Hi, Fery. Thanks for the invite.
Okay, now, last but not least, let me introduce you to our next speaker, Jayanth Murthy, Managing Director of Kaizen Institute India. Jayanth has over 25 years of experience in Kaizen and operational excellence, supporting organizations across Africa, South Asia, and in their continuous improvement journey in various industries. He is also a founding partner of Kaizen Institute India and a pioneer in Kaizen adoption for governments in Mauritius, Kenya, Tanzania, and India. He has guided manufacturing and services industries in over 30 plus countries. His expertise lies in lean transformation, organizational development, and he has also shaped the policy of Kaizen initiative, including within the Office of the Prime Ministers of India. Let's welcome Jayanth. How are you, Jayanth, today?
Thank you very much, Fery. A pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's my pleasure to have you all here. And once again, thank you guys for taking time out from your busy schedule to attend this talk. So without further delay, let's deep dive into today's Kaizen Roundtable on OEE. Understanding OEE challenges, every industry faces its own set of challenges when implementing OEE, from equipment constraints to cultural resistance. The journey is never straightforward. So perhaps I would like to pose these questions to the three experts here. What are the unique challenges of implementing OEE project across different industries? Maybe let's start with Luis from Western Europe.
Well, so again, good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be here with you discussing these many things regarding today about OEE. But regarding your question, Fery, our biggest challenge, at least the ones that I've been working with is companies that have different types of equipments. Imagine that you have an equipment that you are assembling something with a person, and you need to somehow to calculate the efficiency of that system, of that machine. And in the same plant, you have a complete automated machine that doesn't make any errors or commits very small errors. And then you have to calculate the overall OEE. So I've been challenged to figure out how to discover, how to define the OEE for these types of companies. And sometimes this is challenging because the speed is different, the nature of the work is completely different inside the same business. And sometimes these kind of challenges for us are not so easy to solve. But somehow OEE is a measurement. It's a very good measurement where we can compare different systems, different machines, different types of work, and that's why it does exist. Okay, it's not easy sometimes to measure, but the reason why we measure OEE is exactly because of that. We can measure with the same KPI, with the same indicator, two different systems, two different types of equipments or machines. And that's basically what I like more about OEE when I implement it. But this is the biggest challenge, is really to compare systems, to compare machines that have different qualities, different speeds in the same company or in the same plant.
Thank you. And how about Deborah from South Africa?
Hi. So Lut, you triggered something for me. My answer was going to be when people do OEE or try and calculate it in isolation or silos. And I think you're mentioning the complexity of trying to, and it's probably why I find so many places try and calculate OEE for individual systems or individual processes. And in doing so, one of the challenges I find is that by optimizing the single part, they mess up the optimization of the whole, with the lack of understanding of flow through an entire process. So we often find you go into companies where there's a silo between engineering and production or safety and environment, and they then every person's trying to push their own KPI, which might not be what's in the best interest of the whole process. And then I'm not sure if it's exactly how you asked when you asked, what are the unique challenges of implementing OEE? One of the things that triggers for me in South Africa is that the culture of Kaizen and continuous improvement is not yet as strong as it is in some other countries. And there's a tendency to assume that any optimization or productivity improvement project would lead to a loss in headcount. People are worried they're going to lose their jobs. So I think that's the people side for me is always a big issue when we come to OEE. They're almost scared to talk about the real numbers because if we made it better, would my job still be here tomorrow? So that's something else I was thinking of.
Okay. And last but not least, Jayanth, over your 25 years of experience, what did you observe and what are the challenges?
Thank you, Fery. So, there are three things that I will talk about when it comes to challenges. Number one, people don't understand, in most cases, the power of measuring OEE. Most organizations, when they look at equipment, in most traditional companies, they measure availability. And they think availability is everything. Okay? And when you calculate A, P, and Q, availability, performance, and quality, and you multiply it and you come at a number, they are shocked that it's only 25% or 30%. So I think there is a lack of understanding. They don't understand that the power of the word overall, holistic understanding of the effectiveness of an equipment. And if I am permitted to take 5 seconds, I always say, instead of looking at an equipment, look at overall employee effectiveness. A, B, Q for an employee. You may have an employee who's 100% available in the office, but his performance may be only 50%. And his quality is he must be doing 30% of errors in whatever he does. So if you multiply 100% availability only 50% performance and 70% quality, you have a very dismal, very small overall employee effectiveness. So the first problem I face, I think in my understanding, is that people don't understand the power of this overall measure. The second challenge that I have faced is that people are using a lot of technology today to calculate OEE, okay, which is very good. But you can get OEE today on the mobile phone. It is available in the night. It's available in the day. But what do you do with this number, right? So today you have a lot of information available. You have digital dashboards. You have simple tools and techniques which can give you OEE all the time, continuously, in real time. But the problem is, what do you do with it? If you stare at a number which says your OEE is 45 or 50, if you don't know how to improve it, how to improve the A, P, and Q, then it is just a number. It causes your blood pressure to go up, but you don't know how to solve the blood pressure problem. And the third problem, the third challenge is people try to calculate and improve the OEE of all the equipments in a company, which is absolute stupidity. You should always focus on constrained capacity. Okay? Whatever machine or equipment you have which is constrained. So it is very important to start with an equipment ranking, and based on the equipment ranking, you pick the constrained capacities and improve the OEE of the constrained capacities. Trying to improve the OEE of all equipments is a pretty stupid. It's like carpet bombing, taking and trying to fix everything. That's a waste. That's smoother. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanth. And Jayanth has mentioned something that tempted me to go off script, which he mentioned about using OEE to measure not just machine, but also on people, right? Which is within Kaizen Institute, we have this methodology. But I'm curious, maybe to know whether Debs and Louis, have you guys actually handled projects that measure OEE for people? Or Jayanth? Yeah, maybe Louis. Yes, Louis, you want to respond? Yeah,
I can go, Fery. The answer is very simple. Is yes. There are measurements, or there are ways to measure the efficiency of people, but mostly, or many times that we work with equipments, there are people involved, and people are managing materials, are putting some data in the machines, putting some settings on the machines, and this will influence a lot the final result on quality, the final result on the speed of the machine, and of course the availability. I'm giving you an example: changeover. Many equipments, the changeover, or I would say almost all equipments in one company are changed over by people, by persons, and this is highly depending on standards, on skills, on the way that you work. And taking that and taking what Jayanth was saying, this will impact a lot the availability of the equipment. If there are no standards for persons, for the ones that operate the machine, while doing a changeover, then the OEE will be very, very impacted. And so I don't see another way to calculate OEE without consider people as well as the main role on when operating a machine. This is the part of the machines, but there are ways, there are manners that we measure as well the efficiency of the direct labor. That's pretty common, where is no equipment involved. But I think this is a different conversation that we have to have another day. Yeah, indeed.
Thank you.
But we call it normally, by the way, direct labor efficiency or something like that, like Jayanth was referring as well.
Okay.
But yeah, when we talk about OEE, it's special equipments, but many equipments that we work today and that we are involved on solving problems involve people, and that's the other way of doing it.
Okay, thank you. Deb, any response to that?
So I 100% agree. I personally have never worked in a highly automated industry where you're looking at exclusively the equipment. So I think when you're looking at it, it's the people process around that equipment. So when you look at the different things that contribute to lost time, the different things that loss of quality and loss of performance, there's a large part of that is influenced by people. So they're always included in it when we look at OEE. But I personally also wouldn't use OEE to rate individuals' performance, because it's seldom that somebody's quality can be rated on a correct error or not. Imagine I start giving Jayanth a score on his facilitation. We're going to end up in more debates, and the middle will be a waste of time with the argument.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Fery, if I can come in, when you measure the OEE of an equipment, and if you go and tell the equipment, hey, you're 40% OEE, the equipment will not complain, right? Yeah. But human beings are very sensitive, right? That's what they're saying. So, if you go and tell somebody that your overall effectiveness is 40%, he will argue, he will be hurt, he will be probably confused. But I personally believe that there is something very interesting for people to take away from the concept of A, P, and Q when you're doing a PMS system, performance management system for people. You should have elements of A, P, and Q. You have to think through it, but I personally am convinced that a holistic way to understand the effectiveness of a human resource is looking at A, P, and Q. Okay, but of course you have to break down what is A, P, and Q. Now, if you look at a traditional office or factory, again, like a machine, what people normally measure is availability. You clock in, you clock out. Oh, congratulations. You were here for 8 hours and you were here for 25 days or 20 days in a month. So your availability was fantastic. But when you were in the office, what is your performance rating? What is your quality output? And it's not easy to calculate and track the performance and quality of human beings. But there are behavioral scientists who can do it. And a performance management system should take some inspiration from APQ. And I think that will be very interesting. Of course, when you talk of human, there is something called skills and competencies, and both of these are very different, but you got to keep that in mind. Thank you.
And to wrap it up on this topic, special bonus topic for the audience, personally I've gone through the notes I think few years ago, and that actually intrigued me. And over the past I think few years, I've been trying to use that as a way to actually to assess the performance, which personally I think that there is actually, like what to me Jayanth said, there's a lot of room for those applications. But nevertheless, let's come back to the topic for equipment, right? So because humans tend to be a bit sensitive, let's talk about equipment, which is generally they don't complain. So for Louis and Debs, I believe many organizations have achieved remarkable improvement through OEE projects. Can you share with the audience some examples of OEE projects that has led to significant improvement?
Yeah, sure. So when I was invited to do this podcast with you, Fery, I was looking for the alignment of the questions and what would be interesting to answer. And specifically this one came to my mind when I was pretty young, working with Kaizen, like maybe in 2012, I suppose. I was working in north of Spain, and we had a point of situation, a steering to do for the management, for the entire management team. It was in Finza, by the way, the company. And the production manager started this intervention to explain the results that we were achieving. It was in early September on that year, and he said, until September this year, we made already the production of last year, and we overcome it. So, by working on quality, by working on efficiency of the machines, by working on the availability, this company was able to do the same amount of production as the previous year until September. You see, so this is really impacting. And when you are in a group of people that are really involved, that are really committed to improve the efficiency, the quality, the availability of the equipments, you can achieve results like this. It's impressive indeed. I have many other examples, Fery, but I think this was the first one that I really realized to myself, this is a huge thing. When you work the three dimensions of OEE, you can achieve amazing results. Indeed, it was a long time ago already.
But it was the first, right?
But anyway, it was really impacting to me, and I speak about this sometimes when I'm working with other companies that follow the same same targets, the same objectives. I refer to this a few times.
Thank you. How about that for your case? Any significant OEE project that that is lasting impact in your mind? Right?
So in the same way as Luis, I had thinking about some examples, and I'm going to go the complete opposite way. Instead of working with a management team, it was working with really low-level guys who were for a laboratory where they did the sample prep. So not even the analytical side. These are guys who are crushing mining samples, the rocks, into finer rocks, and then from finer rocks into powders, and then putting them in bottles for them to be analyzed. So it's what's seen as it's a very highly manual task with different equipment, but there was a debate in this department about what their KPI should be. What is the expectation? Two of the four teams could consistently make 9 batches, which is 21 samples, like 180, 190 samples in a day, whereas the other 2 teams were adamant and coming forward and saying the others must be cheating, skipping steps, because how could they be doing it, because we can only do 150. So they asked us to come in just to assess the difference, and ended up observing, and everybody focused on, so Jayanth said earlier, you have to focus on what's the constraint. Everybody was looking at only the last step of the 5-step process, because that's where the output comes. So you count how many batches come out of the last step. And looking over the entire process flow, we found out that actually the middle step 3, was actually their bottleneck. So the reason that these teams were getting to, like, one week they'll make it, the next they won't, 1 week they'll make it, the next they won't, is because the teams who worked harder were working hard to feed each other. And the way they were rotating is the 2 teams that were not putting as much effort were feeding each other. So it would make no buffer before that last process. So that process in itself could have been an extra 200 samples in the day. That wasn't the bottleneck at all that everyone was arguing about. And ultimately, just by looking at the flow and changing a few simple things, not even actually adjusting any of the equipment where there are options for optimization, I think we got about a 38% increase in output, but more importantly, we achieved it stably. So every day consistently made 9 batches, rather than they were arguing between should it be 7 or 8, but actually they were achieving 5.5. So I think we consistently made almost 40% increase in the outputs, but seeing that from the team and getting them to understand it, I think for me, that's why it sticks out in my mind. It wasn't engineers, it wasn't someone coming up with a fancy innovation. It's just logic and working the process and reducing those downtimes for increasing the availability and the performance.
Thank you, Debs. And let's also hear from Jayanth, right? Maybe in a different question that I have for him. Right? So, Jayanth, from your experience, I believe you also have a lot of real-world successes. But my question to you is, in all these successes, how important is leadership in driving the OEE initiative?
Well, I mean, if we all recollect what Masaki Imai, our chairman, always said: top management commitment, and top management commitment. If the leadership is not interested or committed to driving change, I think it is pointless. Don't even waste your time and energy to get onto any kind of operational excellence or lean or Kaizen or any kind of program if there is no commitment from the top. And when I say commitment, it has to be, as Masaki Imai always said, commitment has to be measurable. Commitment is equal to time. C is equal to T. T is time. So if the top management does not have the time to come and sit in your, say, daily meetings or your governance meetings and steering committee meetings, give ideas, be on the Gemba, go for Gemba walk, I don't think we should start this. So the first blanket reaction is top management commitment is absolutely must for anything, whether it is OEE improvement, for any change, for any improvement. I will just give you one example linking to what I said. We were working in a textile company which buys polyester and converts it into blankets. So when we went and started working in this company, in the first few days, the third day or fourth day, the big boss came and said that the very first machine of this process, and I always remember that machine, it is called a toe-to-top opening machine. It's got, I think, a cider machine, Italian machine. And he said that we have a big problem with this machine and it keeps breaking down and etc., etc. And since it is the constrained capacity, the first machine in the line, when it breaks down, it creates a complete mess along the line. And but we are happy. The bank has approved us $500,000 and we are going to buy a new Italian machine. He said, very good, congratulations. Would you like to wait and see whether you want to pay the bank or you want to make an improvement? So we asked the leadership, I know you want to buy the machine, maybe already they had placed the order. I said, ask them, can you give us a couple of weeks, maybe 2 months? And there is something called OEE, there's something called, improvement, autonomous maintenance, planned maintenance. Will you give us and your team some time? To make a long story short, we started applying the methodology, and I'll tell you, my friends, not only the first of all, that cider machine had a OEE of some 30-40%, okay, and it was without knowing what is the OEE of the equipment, they were ready to go and buy a new machine. Okay, we started improving the OEE. It went up to 50 or 60%, and I visited this. We worked with this client for about 2 or 3 years, and I happened to meet this man 10 years later in a Kaizen Congress. And he told me, you know what, Mr. Murthy, we still have the same machine and we didn't buy the new machine. And I think that is the power of improvement. That is the power of focusing on OEE.
So, Jayanth, I want to
total capital avoidance. Yeah.
So I want to catch on the comment that you make, right? So for Kaizen program to take shape, to be successful, is commitment. And you mentioned a lot about time. So I'm curious, is sometimes management will say, I'm committed, I have given the budget, I've given you ample budget, I've given budget for the consultant to be with us. It's just that I'm really too busy, right? I don't have the time. Will budget alone not suffice as a commitment? Or between budget and time, which one is more important? It's also a tough question.
if this manager, if this CEO is a father or a mother, I think it's a very easy thing for him to understand. We can ask that, please tell your child as a father or mother that I'm sorry, I can't play with you. I can't tell you stories. I can't be with you, but I will give you an iPhone and I'll give you $100 every week. Okay. All the best. Okay. So if he's a mother and father, probably he'll understand, right? So it is not just the resources that your team, your children, your teammates are looking for, but they're looking for the father and mother's time, involvement, passion, whatever you call it. Probably love is too big a word to use in the corporate world, but why not? I mean, what is life without emotions? And every business leader who has used his brains and his heart together, they've always been a great winner. So I think, of course, you need resources. You can't live on fresh air and water and love, right? You need food. But along with that, you need a judicious combination of the leadership time, quality time, their inputs. Thank you.
Thank you. And any comments from Luis and Debs on this question? Luis, you're on mute. Yeah.
I just add something to what Jayanth said. So basically, it's all that he mentioned, and with no commitment, we don't get anything special regarding efficiency anywhere. Can be in a hospital, can be in a retail store or whatever. But when we speak about OEE specifically, obviously the managers need to be involved. There's no other way. But there is a path that we need to follow to do that, is to understand where we are. So we need to create a process to measure where we are. And this is a very important step. Is if we want to measure, we need to understand where we are, or if we want to improve, we need to understand where we are. So this is important. Get a way to measure. Get aligning everyone on the same target. That's come to my mind. If we don't align everyone in the same target, it will be quite difficult to improve whatever we want. Okay. And this is part of what Masaki Mai once said as well, and define very well the targets to achieve. I think these three things are crucial for us, with the managers, with the directors of plants, to define when you want to improve OEE. So measurement, alignment with everyone, and define very well where we want to be. This is crucial for the OEE.
And in most cases, at least from my personal experience, the leaders has to be around, right? The time to spend facilitating, harmonizing, challenging them.
That it comes to what Jayanth just said. Without their involvement, there is no improvement. That's it. Simple as that.
And that's any add-on or have a different view?
I just have an example that I think ties perfectly together what the two of you have said. And I once was called into a manufacturing company where from the top, from the KPIs they can see, they're missing the output by 10 to 20% regularly. And the same people who are calling us in with the supervisor in the room saying, we need help on, how do we get this equipment and get the outputs that we're requiring. And after just looking for 2 days, so coming in early from before the shift, watching over it, our consultants picked up that the supervisor of the team, he comes to the pre-shift meeting and then he goes to his office. And he doesn't come out for 90 minutes. At the earliest, an hour and a half to 2 hours before he comes out. And those operators were losing up to an hour at the start of every shift. And that time made back more than, so you can change nothing except come and say, start the machine now, right? They had no respect for their supervisor because he had no respect for them. So as long as he was in the office, they were just taking their sweet time. And I'm like, you don't even need a Kaizen project. You just need some discipline. And so sometimes just having that visibility of leadership, the fact that that supervisor couldn't tell me that from the beginning, I would be embarrassed if somebody came and was like, let me show you what your lack of involvement in your own department is actually caused, to the point that you've called specialists. So I think that visibility and leadership and being in tune with what's happening in your own your own process is so important.
And perhaps this is maybe a linking questions. Is talking about overcoming resistance to change. I think a lot of times implementing OEE, right? It is maybe it's a mindset change for the team, for the organization that is implementing this. Maybe for you guys, have you encountered resistance to change when implementing OEE? I mean, I believe the answer is yes. And do you have any stories of how managers can overcome this challenge? Perhaps Murthy, you want to share?
So you're asking me whether we have encountered resistance?
Yes, and if yes, any tips for the audience on how to overcome it? I'll be surprised if you say no.
The only thing you encounter is resistance, right? So it is pretty natural for human beings to resist change. We like the law of inertia applies. We would like to remain where you are. And it takes a lot of energy to change habits, especially human beings, right? Habits. So whenever you start any initiative of anything, it could be implementation of an ERP, or you're driving, Hoshin country, or driving anything, lean, operational excellence, anything requires managing people and their resistance. And I'll just take a minute or half a minute to explain that whenever you look at people in organization, you can put them in a bell curve, and there'll be three kinds. You will have about 10-15% who are called early adopters. These are the people who say, oh yes, we like this, let's try this. What's the harm in trying? You have 10-15% at the end of the bell curve who are called concrete heads. They're strong heads, concrete, they're very, very strong. They're strong views. But the mass, the 80% in between, are called the undecided mass. They have no views. They come at 8 o'clock, they leave at 5 p.m. and they will go where the wind blows. Okay? So now it's extremely important for the manager to decide where he should put his energy. Now what happens is, very normally people try to start focusing on the 80% and try to get them onto the change. It's very difficult to move the mass. That's one mistake people do. The second mistake people try to do is they try to convert the unconvertible, the concrete heads. They'll say, how the hell are you not understanding this? I'm going to change you. And in the process, they lose their own energy and become negative and bitter. They'll say, this is not going to change. This is useless. So you will lose your own enthusiasm and energy if you focus on the negatives. What is important is to celebrate the early adopters. It's important as a manager to put the early adopters on a pedestal, enjoy and celebrate the early wins, the quick wins. And when you put them on a pedestal, when you put the light beam on them, when you put the, what is it called, Deb, the light in the stage,
spotlight.
The spotlight on that early adopters, what happens is the undecided 80% look at the spotlight and they'll say, I want to be in that spotlight. And that is how you move the mass. So resistance is to be expected. Resistance is normal. And as a leader, as a consultant, as a coach, you need to deal with the resistance, focus on the positive, focus on the early adopters, focus on the quick wins, and get the undecided mass to slowly move towards it. Don't waste your energy too much on the negatives, on the negative people, on the concrete heads. Yes, you try to tell them once, twice, thrice, but otherwise you just leave them. Maybe over time they will change, or over time they will quit, and that will be good for the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. And how about for Debs and Luis? Any tips on overcoming resistance to change?
So I'll skip a story of resistance. I think we know we all face resistance. Sometimes it's from unions, sometimes it's from individuals. Something that's a tool I use in all change management and to counter resistance to change is to use the tool or the mindset you want to bring in to solve a problem for the individual. So this is something I do regularly where, so for an example, we had a company, they're a mining processing company, they're struggling to get their engineering artisans to do proper problem solving, to kind of work on what are the repeat breakdowns that are affecting their availability of their key equipment. And instead of, when it was a metallurgist bringing a list saying, this breakdown takes us this long, this one, the guys weren't jumping at the opportunity to solve those problems. They didn't interest them and they didn't see the value in the problem solving yet. So what I did is I sat them down and said, okay, great. What task are you doing that irritates you the most? What's the worst one to do that we have to keep going back to? What's that thing you hate? And they'd be like, oh, this thing, it takes us 8 hours. We do it every 2 weeks. And every time they say, we need to change that part, I have to phone my wife and say, I know I'm coming home late. The overtime's not worth it. It's an average job. So I said, great, let's tackle that. And when you start looking at that, and then they realize that going through the process of the problem solving, you can now get that to be a task that only takes 4 hours and happens once every 6 weeks. He suddenly bought it. He's like, this thing's working for me. And now when I can say to him, but now we have this problem that's happening all the time. Can we try and tackle this one? I've built enough goodwill that he's like, you know what, let's do it. And then for that one, he gets recognition. The first one, he got benefit for himself. The second one, he got recognition from the company because it made a bigger impact. But we've got over this hurdle of this is an irritating paperwork thing that's not going to add value to my life. So that's my tip on resistance to change. Use it to solve a problem for the individual that doesn't necessarily have just positive impact for yourself.
And
indeed,
Luis, yes.
Indeed. Yeah, but I think Devs and Jayanth, they capture all. I just add resistance. You have it everywhere. There is no other way. It is wherever you are a manager or just a consultant like we are, you will find resistance everywhere. The tricky thing is what just Deb said. What can we have, and Jayanth said as well, but what can we have to these people, to this group of persons that work together with the same target, same objective to get the same result at the end? What is it for them? What can we improve their job, their work? How can we get their day-to-day tasks so easy that they will have the life easier, their working life easier? As if we can explain and if we can get a way for the people to understand that the resistance will naturally disappear. But there are a lot of things, issues that sometimes we don't overcome. And then what comes to my mind is just what Jayanth said. Sometimes people just have to displace themselves or be displaced in a simple way.
Watch out.
Yeah, that's it. So we are not all the same. We don't feel all the same regardless what we are doing. We don't feel all the same in an aspect of a specific task, a specific result. So, and sometimes we need ourselves to understand that we are being a lot of or introducing a lot of resistance when changing, and we need to move, or then someone needs to highlight that for us, and as simple as that.
Thank you. So in the interest of your time, I think we have more or less few minutes left. So let me quickly wrap up, and maybe the audience would like to hear one last word of wisdom from you, right? So if they are interested to implement OEE, to improve their OEE, what should be the first step? Okay, anyone would like to start first? What is the first step if they want to implement OEE?
Yeah, I can go. I can give a simple answer, and maybe Jayanth has much more experience than any other of us. But sometimes it's difficult to start, and we need alignment. Of course, we need the management, as we said already. But sometimes to start, we just need tally marks to measure quality, to measure stoppage, to measure time. That's it. It's not a huge monster. It's not a monster how to calculate OEE, how to manage the OEE, efficiency, problem solving. And sometimes only tally marks will help us to solve a lot of problems. That's, I think, a message that I want to pass, because this is something that, as a consultant, Kaizen consultant, I've lived already a few times. And with just a simple tally marks process, you can see what really is happening, and you can start to solve your problem. That's it.
Thank you. Start small, start simple. Thank you. Deb, any
So I think, Luis, you covered it earlier when you were saying start by tracking. There should be a visibility on how are we performing. So my logic is always make sure that performance is visible, easy for people to see, and then get them to take the ownership of explaining when things are different, whether it's much better today, whether it's much worse today. Just by starting that starts the conversation of what's working and what's not. So I think, for me, that having transparency on the KPIs, then starting to just talk about why. And then ultimately, when you move on to getting a problem-solving culture, you really want that fast turnaround and transparency in the approval and implementation of those ideas. So I think a lot of us are waiting for the engineers and the metallurgists and the technical experts to come up with the answers, and they don't have them. So
very cool.
Start by yourself. I think that that would be the wisdom. Start. Yeah, don't wait for others. And last but not least, Jayanth.
So my few words would be focus. Start with an equipment ranking. Pick up constraint capacity number 1 or the second in the list. Apply, learn, celebrate the success, and move forward. Thank
you, Jayanth. So thank you everyone for sharing your valuable insights and experience with us today. It has been an enlightening discussion. I hope that we have more of this type of roundtable together. I'm sure our listeners will take away plenty of actionable ideas for applying Kaizen to improve OEE and driving operational excellence. To our audience, thank you for tuning in to KaizenTalk. We hope you gain insights and also inspirations from our experts. From this conversation, stay tuned for the next episode as we continue to explore how Kaizen can transform industries, organizations worldwide with everyone, every day, with everyone, everywhere, every day. See you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.